Not too long ago, I created a tier list for healer-based classes in the Elder Scrolls Online. Well, I think I've kept you guys waiting long enough, and I appreciate your patience. It is time for me to put every class skill line in the game into tiers and let you guys know which are the best and worst for ESO healers. My name's Doc, your host for all things healing, and before I get into the actual rankings, I want to give you guys a quick disclaimer. So, the first and most important thing is that everything I'm about to tell you is my own opinion based on my knowledge and experience of the healer meta. What works for you may be a bit different than what works for me, and that's okay. Since support in ESO has become so situational, there can be use cases for nearly every skill line in the game. I'll do my best to mention those cases, but my rankings will mostly focus on what is generally all around good in PvE for pure healing difficult content such as vet trials. Also, since we'll be working with a lot of different kinds of skill lines, I'll be adding in a couple new tiers. The honorable mention tier will be for skill lines that maybe just have some support utility or can be used in super specific cases, but just aren't really used all that often by healers. Then we have the not for healers tier, which I'll give you 3 guesses as to what that's for. We'll use it for skill lines that obviously will not be used by pure healers. So, with that being said, let's start by talking about the Arcanist skill lines. And starting off, we have Herald of the Tome, and this is a purely damage dealer skill line, and while it's great for that, we healers won't be really using it ever, so it's going in the not for healers tier. Next up is Soldier of Apocrypha. And this is actually a pretty good skill line for tanks and PvP builds, but alas, not really meant for us healers, so it will also be going in the not for healers tier. And then we have Curative Runiform, so this is all around a pretty solid healing skill line, and I'm happy to say that it's going in the B tier. It has some really strong resource sustain, healing output, and shielding. I want to put it into A tier, but after the nerf to Zena's Empowering Disc, it lost a lot of utility. It's still great for barrier spam and shield stacking, but the lack of utility, ultigen, and passive healing does bring it down just a bit. And we're moving on to our Dragonknight, starting with Draconic Power. Yeah, there isn't anything here for healers, so it will be going in the not for healers tier. Next up is Ardent Flame, and while there is a heal over time spell in that skill line, that is literally all that skill line offers for healers. Every other skill and every single passive in this skill line do not do anything for healers, so I'll be putting Ardent Flame in the D tier. And then we also have Earthen Heart, and unfortunately, this skill line will also be in the D tier. It's slightly better than Ardent Flame, but only just slightly. There's a pretty good AoE heal, but it's a very small radius, and the passives of this skill line are just so much better for tanks than healers. Up next we have the Necromancer, and starting off we have Gravelord, and I'll be putting this into C tier. The debuffs that this skill line provides are really awesome, but I also find that a tank or a support DPS usually runs this more often than not. If your group prefers a healer run this skill line, then it might be ranked much higher for you, but as it stands, I don't personally see a lot of healers using this skill line just because tanks and support DPS run it so often. And next we have Bone Tyrant, and while the majority of this skill line doesn't really offer a whole lot for healers, what it does offer is the Necrotic Potency skill, which offers some of the highest ultimate generation in the entire game. Considering how prevalent ultimate-related builds are in the current healer meta, this skill line is a very versatile skill line for any build related to generating ultimate, and that's why I'll be putting it in the A tier. And then we also have Living Death. Now I'll be putting this in the B tier. It offers pretty decent healing output, solid ultimate generation, and good utility for cleansing and reviving. Unfortunately, this skill line does suffer quite a bit if you're doing content that doesn't give you access to a lot of corpses. However, if you do have a lot of corpses to work with, there is a lot going for this skill line, and it's not a bad choice at all. Moving on to our Nightblade. So first up we have Assassination, and this is another great DPS skill line. It actually did have a couple decent skills for healers back before subclassing, but there's just no real reason to run this on a healer anymore with all the skill lines we have access to, so I'll be putting this in the not for healers tier. We also have Shadow, and this will be our first honorable mention. The skill line really only has like one good skill for healers, which is Refreshing Path. I actually used to love that skill a whole lot, and while I do still think that it has some niche uses, we're just not really using it anymore, but I wanted to give it an honorable mention because Refreshing Path is just such a fun skill. I love it so much. And then we also have Siphoning. Now, I think it comes to no one's surprise that I'll be putting this into the S tier. This is arguably the single most versatile healer skill line in the entire game, being found on nearly every meta build and setup. It offers incredibly strong ultimate generation, increased resources, great healing output, and much more. There's not much more to say. You guys probably already know how good this skill line is. And next up we have our Sorcerer skill line. Starting off we have Stormcalling. So while this is a pretty good DPS skill line, especially for heavy attack builds, there just really isn't anything in here that will be useful for us as healers. I think there's like one specific morph of a skill that can heal. It's just not worth it. This will be going in the not for healers tier. And we have Dark Magic. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put this skill in the D tier. There's only one healing skill in the entire skill line, and it's just not that good, especially when compared to the healing and utility of other burst heals. Plus, the passives offer some decent ability cost reduction, but I don't know if I would want to dedicate an entire skill line for something that I could get with like jewelry enchantments. And then we have Daedric Summoning. So, like Gravelord from the Necromancer, I'll be putting this into C tier for mostly the same reasons. The skills themselves bring some pretty decent healing and utility, but not a whole lot. The main reason you might see a healer running the skill line is that the cost reduction passive makes this great for ultimate spam builds, and the Atronach ultimate can bring the team a lot of extra damage. Like with Gravelord though, I still see quite a few tanks and support DPS bringing this skill line, and ulti spam builds just aren't really super necessary in a whole lot of content. Moving on to our Templar, so we'll be starting with Dawn's Wrath, and I'll be putting this skill line in the C tier. The Purifying Light skill can give your main tank a decent little heal, plus you've got the ultimate generation and the ultimate cost reduction, making this skill line a pretty decent flex pick for ulti spam or ulti gen builds. The problem is that it's just not the best at any of those things. The ulti gen is nice, but it's nothing compared to Bone Tyrant or Siphoning. The cost reduction is also nice, but it's still outclassed by Daedric Summoning or Curative Runeforms. I'll give it points for being a very well-rounded skill line, but I'll also have to take off some points for that exact same reason. And we also have Aedric Spear. Now, you may have expected this skill line to be a not for healers, but I'm actually going to give it an honorable mention for one specific skill. So Luminous Shards can give a resource restore synergy and can actually make for a pretty good replacement for Energy Orb on hybrid builds. So, if you're a dungeon healer, this skill line may be worth looking into. It's worth an honorable mention. And finally for Templars, we have Restoring Light. Now, I'll be dropping this bad boy into the A tier. It is an incredibly versatile skill line that can go well on just about any healer build. It's also super easy to use due to a lot of its skills having a very long duration. On top of that, the high healing output and long range of these skills make this a very reliable skill line for encounters that may be a bit chaotic or difficult to coordinate. And finally, we have our Warden skill lines, and starting off we have Animal Companions. While this is a super fun skill line, and I absolutely love that bear, I cannot express to you how much I love this skill line, it doesn't really offer anything for us healers, so I'll have to put it in the not for healers tier. Next up is Winter's Embrace, and I'll be giving this an honorable mention. The extra defenses, self-heal, and group-wide major resolve make this skill line better for tanks, though those same things can also make this a pretty decent skill line for PvP healers. While I don't personally use it on my build, I did want to show that skill line a little bit of love. And finally, we have a green balance, a requirement for at least one healer on every trial. I'll be finishing off our list by putting it into S tier. While it offers all-around great healing and resource sustain, what really makes this skill line shine is its unique utility in the form of the minor toughness buff. This skill line is one of only 2 sources of minor toughness in the game, the other being the Warrior Poet set, and that makes this an invaluable skill line since minor toughness can literally be the difference between life or death in a lot of difficult content. And there we have it. That was every class line currently in ESO ranked for healers. Again, a friendly reminder that these are my opinions, and you are welcome to disagree with me. Whether you agree or disagree with me, though, I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. Don't forget to subscribe and check out the link tree in the description so you don't miss my other tier lists that I have coming out, as well as join my Discord server. I'd also like to take a moment to thank my Patreon supporters Tyler Scott, Dylan Stewart, and Sharni Lee, as well as my YouTube members King Gingy, Durgy, insert username Eric from Ohio, and Timeburn. Thank you guys for continuing to support me, and y'all are the best. I think all I've got left to say is that I've been Doc. Take care of yourselves, be good to others, don't forget to try out some new skill lines, and I will catch y'all in the next one.